All right, today we're going to journey to the very roots of communication. We'll be diving into the incredibly sophisticated vocal worlds of animals to better understand a really fundamental question. What makes human language so profoundly unique? Let's get started. And just before we proceed, I wanted to note that this material has been curated and customized by Luis Peralta, specifically as a professional resource from educators. So let's kick things off with a huge question, one that's puzzled linguists and biologists for centuries. I mean, we see complex communication everywhere in nature, but is human language just a more advanced version of that, or is it operating on a completely different blueprint? That's really what we're here to unpack. To even begin to answer that, we first have to really appreciate the sheer brilliance and variety of communication in the animal world. This stuff isn't primitive, it's a masterclass in adaptation. You know, for any species, communication isn't some kind of optional extra. It is a biological imperative. It's pretty much the software that runs the entire program of survival. Whether it's about finding a partner, spotting a threat, or claiming a home, these systems are just perfectly tailored to get the job done. And animals do this using this incredible toolkit with 4 main channels. You've got visual, like the insane mating display of a peacock. You've got auditory. Think of a wolf's howl traveling for miles. Tactile communication is huge for social bonding, like primates grooming each other. And then there's chemical, those invisible but powerful pheromone trails that ants leave. Every channel is optimized for a very specific job. And the sophistication of these systems is it's remarkable. In the auditory world, we're talking about way more than simple calls. Blue whales, for example, have regional dialects where their song patterns actually vary by geography. And even more amazing, some songbirds that live on the border of 2 dialect zones become functionally bilingual. They learn both song patterns so they can communicate with all their neighbors. This slide shows just how much evolutionary pressure can shape communication in really unexpected ways. This iguana here, it doesn't really communicate vocally, but it has evolved these highly developed ears for one specific purpose: to eavesdrop on the warning calls of a local bird. Why? Because they share a predator. So the bird's alarm call becomes the iguana's lifeline. It's a genuine interspecies communication network. So, with that deep respect for animal communication firmly established, let's pivot. Because what happens inside the human brain is not just an extension of this. It's a completely different kind of machine. The linguist Noam Chomsky really built his theories on 2 kind of puzzling facts about us. First, our ability to be creative with language is infinite. We can say and understand sentences that have never, ever been said before. And second, think about it. Children pick up the incredibly complex rules of grammar without anyone sitting them down for formal lessons. It just happens. This all points to some kind of biological gift for language. You can almost picture this whole process as a grammar factory. So a kid is exposed to a limited, often messy, and incomplete stream of language. That's the input. Then their brain applies this innate mental framework, what Chomsky called universal grammar, to basically distill all the underlying rules. And the result? The ability to produce an infinite number of creative, grammatically perfect sentences. It's this amazing system that generates way more than it ever takes in. So, this idea of universal grammar is absolutely crucial. It's the theory that all human languages, no matter how different they seem on the surface, are all built on a common underlying blueprint. And that blueprint is hardwired into our brains from birth. It's not about learning one specific language, it's about having the machinery ready to build any human language. Okay, so this brings us to a head-to-head comparison, and this is where the core design difference becomes crystal clear. And the distinction isn't just about complexity, it's about fundamental architecture. This matrix here really lays out the fundamental split. Animal communication, for the most part, operates as a finite analog system. Human language, on the other hand, is an infinite digital and compositional code. Okay, let's break down what that actually means. So animal systems usually have a finite list of calls, right? There's one for predator, one for food. They're also often analog. A great example is a honeybee's dance. It gets more intense to signal a richer food source. More waggle equals more nectar. But human language is digital. We have discrete parts, words, that we can combine in literally limitless ways. And, this is the big one, it's compositional. The meaning of dog bites man is totally different from man bites dog, even though the parts are the same. The structure is what creates the meaning. You know, a beautiful bird song has been called Charlie Parker with feathers. It's complex, it's creative, it's got tons of variation, but it's not compositional. The variations are for style. They're aesthetic.
They don't change the basic meaning. The bird isn't rearranging notes to say something new and predictable. With human syntax, every single time you rearrange the parts, you create a distinct, predictable new meaning. That is the crucial difference.
And get this difference is literally hardwired into our brains. A primate's vocal calls, and even our own involuntary cries or laughs, they come from these deep, ancient, emotion-driven parts of the brain. But genuine grammatical language, that lives exclusively in the cerebral cortex, the newest, most advanced layer of the brain. They are physically separate systems.
So what does all this mean? Well, it's tempting to look at this and see a story of humans winning at communication, but that is a profound misunderstanding of how evolution actually works. It's time to dismantle that whole idea. See, evolution is driven by the specific needs of a niche. Chimpanzees are fantastically successful animals, and they never needed compositional language to be so. But for early humans living in that hunter-gatherer niche, the ability to share really detailed, specific information about the world created this immense evolutionary advantage, and that's what drove this unique adaptation. So we have to just throw out that old, misleading idea of an evolutionary ladder, with humans sitting smugly at the top. The reality is a branching bush. We aren't more evolved than a chimpanzee. We've simply evolved differently. We're occupying our own specialized branch with our own specialized tools. And if you actually break communication down into its different components, you find masters all over that bush. The best vocal imitators out there, birds and dolphins. The best at learning an artificial syntax, a parrot. The best at reading human intention, it's not a chimp, it's the family dog. There is no single hierarchy of skill. This all brings us to our final, and I think crucial reframing of what human language really is. We don't look at our inability to fly like a bat and see it as some kind of evolutionary failure, right? We don't complain that our noses are useless compared to an elephant's trunk. Those are highly specialized tools for their niches. Our language is exactly the same. It's our unique, our powerful, and our highly specialized tool. So remember this, language is our trunk, not our crown. It doesn't put us at the top of some imaginary ladder. It is simply the incredible adaptation that allows us to be human. And this reframing leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. If our language is a tool, perfectly adapted for our ecological niche, what does that imply about the very nature of the consciousness that this tool helps to build? Thank you for joining this exploration.